Ladies and gentlemen, you knew this video was coming as soon as we dropped this here ZX6. Street squids the world over are pitching tents, but today we are taking a look at the ZX6 and the R6, two of the most street squid motorcycles, am I right?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, if you're done with your R3, you're done with your Ninja 400, you're like, I need real power. And you're like, maybe I shouldn't get a leader bike just yet. You're definitely looking at both of these motorcycles. You've got one open on Cycle Trader and the other open in another window on Cycle Trader right now. I know you're doing it.
I know you're looking at them, but you're gonna keep watching this video because today we're doing a deep dive on what these two motorcycles are like to ride on the street. We are not doing any track tests with them today because we're out here in the office and we are here in Austin and it's not a track day with these two bikes. But I'd like to imagine that many of you out there probably don't do track days that often anyways. So today we're gonna be comparing these two bikes on the street and seeing which one is best for your street squid ham-fistedness. So let's get started by looking at the specifications on these two motorcycles.
Now, taking a look at this R6 right here, we actually borrowed this motorcycle from a concerned citizen over on Instagram who lent this bike to us for the day to compare to the ZX6. And it has a couple of mods on here that I think we should talk about before we actually get into the specs. First of all, we do have an SC Project exhaust. There is no servo buddy in here, so it is throwing a check engine light. But you will see, it's not gonna blow up, we promise. It's just a servo buddy. Street squid stuff, am I right? I mean, who actually gets the servo buddy anymore? They just roll with the check engine light. And we do actually have this motorcycle lowered, which is going to change how it handles a little bit. It's dropped on the forks and on the rear shock. So if you're noticing it feels even smaller than normal, that's because it is a little bit shorter. I think it's about an inch lower across the board. And the last thing here, it does have different fairings. He's halfway through changing the fairings out on this. This is the stock color, the black and orange and silver. He's gone with these monster fairings, which are gray. So that's why there's two different colors on this motorcycle. Now, actual specs. We have that same 599cc inline 4 that everybody knows and loves, one of the winningest engines ever in one of the winningest bikes ever. And it is putting down 116 horsepower, which I know I'm going to get lambasted for in the comments. It's 116 horsepower and 45 foot-pounds of torque, with that max power coming in 14,500 RPM, because 600 life means that you need to just be here all the time. This bike weighs in at 420 pounds wet and ready to ride, and normally the seat height would be much taller, but again, it is quite low for this lowered version here. Now, with all that being said, let's bring the ZX6 in here and see what it's packing under the hood.
Alrighty guys, this is our 2016 ZX6 that we have as a giveaway motorcycles. This was not borrowed. I purchased this thing in order to give it away, so click the links down below and check out how you can get entered to win this motorcycle. You're not going to want to miss it. Now, this bike, as many people know, is powered by a cheater 636cc engine. So it's got 36 more cc's, or 37 more cc's if you want to be super specific about it, than the R6. Makes 131 horsepower at 13,500 RPM and about 52 foot-pounds of torque at 11,500 RPM. Now, this motorcycle, when you're out there on the street with it, you actually do feel those little bits of extra cubes in the engine over something like an R6. We're going to show you guys that with some Mexico runs and some acceleration tests as well. Now, this motorcycle, you'll notice, is very stock, so much so that the brakes are incredibly squishy and need some maintenance and refreshing. This thing's got about 9,000 miles on the clock, if I remember correctly, and it's going to need a couple maintenance items, but basically bone stock on this bike. Stock exhaust, stock rear sets, stock levers, none of the kind of 600 boy mods that you would see normally, except for this gold anodized gas cap for some reason, which we are definitely going to address. Not even tank grips on this thing. So pristine, so beautiful. This motorcycle is also going to weigh about 423 pounds ready to ride, which is about 3 pounds more than the R6, which you're definitely going to feel when you're out there commuting from work and to school, obviously. But I think we've learned enough about the specifications on both of these motorcycles. Let's get them out on the road and let's see how they're like to ride.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're out here doing street squid stuff. ZX6 versus R6. Two motorcycles that you're definitely looking at upgrading to from your R3 or your Ninja 400. Maybe you're gonna swap teams and go Kawasaki or Yamaha. And, you know, just in riding these two bikes, I think we've ridden maybe a couple miles to out this spot. I'm already noticing a big difference. What do you think, Spite?
Oh yeah, for sure. You can really feel how there actually is almost somewhere in that ZX-6R a street ethos to it. I mean, it's obviously a, you know, born and bred race bike, but it has some street concessions that the R6 just does not make.
Yeah, the R6's power band is it's almost like a two-stroke. It's so silly. You gotta just wind it out to even feel anything on it. Whereas the 636, I'm here in third gear at like 5,000 RPM, and I can coast through these corners. I can get on the gas a little bit and actually feel like.
Meanwhile, I was in first gear and then I still had to get on the power.
Oh, you were in first gear? Yeah, I'm in third right now.
Yeah, so I'm in second, cruising at about 45 miles an hour at 7,000 RPM. And as I get through this corner, nobody's home until you get to the tippy top.
Yeah. Ergonomically speaking, I think these bikes are pretty similar. However, because that R6 is lowered, I almost feel like this comparison is getting thrown out a little bit in the bin because it's so weird, given that it is lowered, and maybe we should talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, I think this motorcycle sits way less aggressively than it would normally. I remember other R6s that I've ridden, and it was like, of bikes I've sat on, CBR 1000 Triple R, R6, other sport bikes. You know, this is, I mean, it's actually kind of comfortable, which is not right.
So the gentleman that owns that bike put on lowering links and lowered the forks and the triple and made it so that it is very low. It probably has like a 30-inch seat height at this point, honestly.
Yeah, and personally, I don't think it needed to be lowered for his use case. He's not that short of a dude, and the way it changes the motorcycle's handling, I mean, it reinforces my opinion that you just should never lower a motorcycle.
No, you really shouldn't. Yeah, so apologize to the dude that owns that bike, but you should unlower it ASAP. But getting back to this comparison here, you know, one thing I'm noticing is that both these motorcycles have pretty wide gas tanks because they're the 600 class, just the way the frames are set up and how wide the engines are. Both gas tanks are pretty wide. You don't notice it so much as when you're getting up to speed and kind of moving through time and space. But I know for a fact my Daytona sits way thinner through the saddle, and an R7 is like half as thin as one of these bikes, you know?
Yeah, these tanks, I feel like my knees are out in the breeze, which I guess they're supposed to be. Kind of encourages you to lean off the bike and kick your knee out a little bit.
Yeah, they definitely elicit some bad behavior on a twisty set of roads, that's for sure. The accessibility of performance is just, like, you just can't reach it anywhere, man. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, the R6 just demands you to be at the very bleeding edge of the power band all the time for you to feel anything, really. And that's just not how you ride on the street.
Why don't we swap bikes really quick? We'll get a quick little impression gut check for both of them. That'd be good.
Sounds good to me. Ooh, man, I can really feel the difference in just low-end punch on this bike. There is low-end punch.
It's usable. It's genuinely usable. You don't have to go up to a leader bike to get a middle-class motorcycle that still feels fun and you can rev it out.
Yeah, you don't have to be at 14,000 RPM to actually feel something in life.
Yeah. One thing I wanted to talk about, though, was as a dude that put on, you know, 25,000 miles on a Daytona 675R many years ago, riding these motorcycles on the street is, you gotta work with them, you know? We were joking at the shop that they're like kind of like terrorists, you know? You can't really negotiate with them. You have to just acquiesce to their demands or just throw them in the bin, you know, one way or another. And so if you're gonna ride one of these bikes and you do want to be comfortable, you have to engage your core, you have to squeeze the tank, you have to keep your hands light. If you see someone online saying, oh, I've got wrist pains from riding this bike, well, that's because they're not light on the grips. They're not using their core, they're not using their legs. And these bikes are ergonomically so kind of screwed up versus normal motorcycles that you have to ride them differently. And that's, I think, you as a guy who doesn't have a lot of 600 like super sport on street experience, that's something that you've kind of had to come to terms with, right?
Yeah, that's one thing. We've ridden a lot of super sports lately, and spending time in the saddle on that's one thing I really had to just come to terms with and be like, look, I'm not gonna be comfortable, so I just need to get that out of my head and just ride it the way that it wants to be ridden, because I can't ride it the way I want to. But I think we are coming to the point in the show now that everybody is here for.
Everybody wants to see it. And it's probably just going to come down to the weight difference like it always does between me and you, but damn it, we're going to give it a shot anyways. Going to see what's faster, R6 or ZX6. Can I overcome a 11 horsepower deficit with 70 pounds less of weight, I believe. All right, you ready?
Whenever you're ready.
I mean, for how much more you weigh, that was impressive.
Yeah.
That was really impressive.
That's solidly good out of the ZX6. Good job, motorcycle. Good job.
That was first gear to probably a little over 100 miles per hour, and that ZX was right there with a rider that's 70 pounds heavier, which is really impressive.
It's just such a strong engine, dude.
Like, it kind of feels like a 750 sometimes. It's a really great engine.
It makes me wonder what the Gixxer 750's like.
I bet it's a lot like the ZX6, but just a teensy bit more, you know? Everyone says that bike is basically perfect. I'd love to ride it one day.
Oh man, on a just, you know, easy going windy road, this normal suspension setup just feels so much better.
Oh yeah. Alrighty, Spite, we've ridden these bikes around, done the street squid thing. How about we pull off and wrap this one up?
Sounds good to me.
All right, everyone, wrapping the day up here with the ZX6 and the R6, and we're trying to determine which one has the most squid street energy and which one you should buy, and I think it's pretty apparent it's the ZX6 for today.
Yeah, the ZX6 just has so much more punch. It's a more usable power band on the street. This is, you can really tell that Yamaha is like, no, here, all the time.
Always here,
yeah.
Right wrist, all the time. Now, the R6, though, I think with its little bit of extra rev ceiling, you know, obviously it would make for a fantastic track day weapon. Both of them would. But the R6 just has that two-stroke kind of crazy high top-end power rush. And, you know, if that's what you're looking for, if you want a bike, you can really just absolutely rail like an old school 90s 250cc four-sail or something like that. The R6 definitely fits the bill. We think the ZX6 is a more complete package, however. This is a bike that actually you could use as a everyday motorcycle, as a daily bike to ride to school and back and all those sorts of things. Yeah, it's a pretty, you know, I'll admit Kawasaki, their marketing brief makes sense. It is a street bike you can take on the track, I would say.
It's kind of baffling that we've come to this point, but yeah, honestly, you could make the case for it as long as you're okay with making the sacrifice ergonomics-wise.
Yeah. Now, between the two, I think this one is ever so slightly less committed than the R6. The R6 is one of the most committed packages we've seen in kind of modern motorcycling. But this one over here, you know, it's a bike you can get along with every day, and with the power modes even, you could grow into it, right, as a street squid.
Why does it have power modes? Just full power all the time?
It should just be full power all the time. It
doesn't make any sense.
Yeah. So between these two motorcycles for your everyday street application and for the squid energy you guys are looking to find, we would recommend the ZX6. However, maybe someday we can get both of these motorcycles, not this one in particular because it's lowered, out on track and see which one is a little bit more effervescent or peppy. And we'll see if we can lay down some spicy lap times at Eagles Canyon or something like that. But that's going to wrap it up for today. Thanks so much to the gentleman who loaned us his R6 today. And be sure to check out this ZX6 on yamanoob.co. Make sure you can enter to win this thing for free. We'll catch you in the next one. See you later.